What's up, YouTube? I think I'm live. It just took me another half an hour to figure this out again. So we're going through some uh, adjustments to get all this working. So again, I'm live streaming again. I haven't live streamed for the most part in about 2 years. I've done them here and there. So we're going to be talking about the Digital SHSAT. This channel spends a lot of time talking about the SHSAT, so it's going to be a big emphasis of what we do. Many of you know who I am. I'm Greg from Greg's Tutoring NYC. And yeah, so um, yesterday I got so bogged down in doing some of this that I forgot to actually share the link to the screen. So if you notice on here, I have my email, GregsTutoringNYC@gmail.com, but there's also GregsTutoringNYC.com/digital-SHSAT-facts. I had done that, but I also thought I had actually displayed on the screen that image, so, which, whoops, is going to be, ah, it's going to be that there. That was the intention of that. So if you go to GregsTutoringNYC.com/digital-SHSAT-facts, you'll find that. So that was just basically an introduction to say that the digital SHSAT is real and that it got approved and it's there. And the basic premise is that there's a lot we don't know about it yet. Hi, Joel. Please like and subscribe. Anybody in the lobby, please say hi. Yeah, so I'm going to give a kind of overview first, again, including some misinformation and things that we do know. So things we know and things we don't know and things that are misinformation. And then at the end, we can have question and answers or whatever, or if what I'm saying is applicable. All right, so we're going to talk about tonight is basically what does it mean to be digital and what is adapted. And as I kind of teased yesterday, I have a third part to this planned already as well, which is to kind of go a little deeper on stuff too. So I'm gonna have to do a little legwork on that still, to just give you the spirit of what the exam might end up looking like. Okay, because we currently have paper-based exams, and we eventually need to move into digital exams. And what does that mean? And how is it going to look? And things like that. So that is part of what we need to go. I'm not sure what's happening because my screen is blanking out. But anyway, I'm going to get rid of the Chrome image, and bring a PDF that we're going to basically be talking about. So we're going to go through some terms first, and then work forward into what we need to do or not do. So the first thing, there's two kind of high level terms. It's a computer exam, it's digitized, right? And the other is it's going to be adaptive. All right. So a digital computer exam just means it's an exam on the computer. It has no other meaning besides that, right? Um, it's electronic, yada yada, whatever the case may be. It's going to appear on a screen, not on a piece of paper. Okay. So then the question is, well, what is an adaptive exam? Actually, adaptive exam does not need to be on a computer. So the question is, an adaptive exam, I have the definition at the bottom, is that questions will be adapted at some level to how the student is doing. So if a student is doing poorly, it might just keep at that constant rate of questioning. If a student is doing really well and getting the questions right, it might give them more harder questions or something like that. So, and there's just a multitude of ways an adaptable exam can be given. Just like there's multiple ways a digital exam could be given. It could be videos that you answer questions. It could be static questions that are just cut and pasted off a piece of paper. And there's everything in the middle. So we have to get these two terms right. The first just means it's just going to be on a computer. All right. And the second means is it might change the way the questions are asked to the student based on how the student's doing up until that point, right? And from there, there's a lot of misinformation. The dam just breaks loose at that point. All right, so that's where we're going to go at this point to explore this. And again, if you haven't seen yesterday's overview, please go back and look at that because I'm not really going to repeat it. So the first thing is, well, if a digital means computer and adaptive means it's going to make adjustments based on how the student's progress as they take the exam, uh, and everybody's talking about the exams going digital, when is the adaptive part going to happen? So there's part of this is I'm just the messenger on a lot of this. Part of this is problematic because the DOE is not explicitly saying. However, the current situation is not that the test will be adaptive next year. So the last paper exam was last month in 2024. There will actually be another one in the summer because that is part of last year's testing cycle. So the next testing cycle is going to be the fall 2025 exams. Those are going to be digital, but they are not going to be adaptive. So currently, that's the situation. All right. Again, I'm not trying to speak for the DOE or anything like that, but the current situation is, from their understanding, that's the plan. Okay. And then for the fall 2026 is when it's going to be adaptive. All right. So it may turn out as the year progresses or the fall 2025 exam happens. Maybe they're going to do the fall 2025 exam and the 2026 one, both just digitized but not adaptive. So the idea is get everybody on the computer first. Let's work out those problems, and then after that, make it adaptive. All right. So it's not going to have the adaptability behavior at all the first time through. All right. That doesn't mean there's nothing to worry about because we have paper-based exams, and it does not particularly mean that they're going to take a paper exam and photograph it and cut and paste the images onto the screen. That's not what particularly a digital exam is. Now, it could be that's what they do, but most likely it's not going to be what they do. All right. So I mentioned there's going to be a third part to this that I still have planned. There's going to be a whole bunch of parts to this. That's what I want to explore in the third part of this. Exactly what it might end up looking like. All right. But for now, uh, it's going to be a digital exam only next year. And then in 2026, it's going to be a digital adaptive exam. All right. So the first piece of misinformation um, is that the test will be adaptive next year. All right. So that's false. All right. So we're gonna X that out. That's just not true. All right. So that is bogus. Wait, what did I just do there? Hold on, I'm messing up my screen. Ah, my cursor's freaking out. Hold on. All right, I'm going to use my trackpad. That is false. Okay, it will not be digital first. Sorry, it'll be digital first, not adaptive. Okay. The other thing is, when I say PBE, I'm talking about a paper-based exam. So on a paper-based exam, you can go to any question or section and then go back to a question later. So that's a general strategy that everybody does. Um, you start wherever you want, you end wherever you want, you go to any section and any question. All right. So there's a falsity to that, which is that all paper-based exams don't work that way. There's some paper-based exams where they give you an ELA in the math section, you can only do the ELA section first, and you have to wait. They may not even give you the math section, right? On the SHSAT, historically, they gave you all the questions, and you can do them in any order. You can do the exam backwards if you want. All right. So just for starters, it's not true that all paper-based exams let you go any way you want. It's only true that the SHSAT allowed that. Okay. All right. Okay. And then from there, a whole bunch of other statements kind of piggyback out of it, which is um, uh, the ability to go back and forth, and especially at the end of the exam, go back to questions that you skipped or you want to do more time on. People are saying that's not going to happen, and we just don't know that. The DOE hasn't said how the adaptability part and the adaptability model is going to work. I said this yesterday, and I keep saying it until we get a definitive answer on this. Okay, there is going to be some level of adaptability, but we don't know how much. Okay, so this is something that needs discussion and all that other stuff. So the notion that you can't go back and check your work, or the notion that you can't do the exam backwards, we do not know yet exactly what kind of adaptive model is being used. So there's nothing we can say about it. All right, I'm getting passionate about this because I'm getting into actually disputes with people about this, and we don't know until they tell us. So there's no point making stuff up. Now, if you want to talk about all adaptive models, go for it. All right, there is a variety of adaptive models, just like there's a variety of paper-based exams. So if you want to give your opinion on some of them or what you don't want to see or something, that's one thing. But do not be saying that the SHSAT that's going adaptive or digital is going to prohibit it. We don't know until they answer that question first. Okay? Okay? And then people will go further and say, well, on the MAP exam, I take iLearn and MAP and all that. They won't let me go back. Well, that's that exam. That's the adaptive model that exam used. All right, so that exactly proves my point. Just give a contradiction. The new digital SAT is adaptive, and it lets you move about in a section. Okay, you can't particularly cross sections, but within a group of questions, you can move back and forth. All right, so I don't know that I don't know how to phrase that properly. Let's call that a hybrid model. All right, so that might be the model that the SAT takes. So here's an explicit example where the SAT lets you go back and forth, not through the whole exam, but at least good chunks of it, and it's adaptive. All right. So, and it's not even worth talking particularly about exactly how the SAT does it because the SHSAT may not do it that way, just like the SHSAT may not do it like the MAP does. So to be clear, the SAT does not do it like the MAP, and the SHSAT may not do it the same as either one of those. All right. So that's kind of where we need to go through this, and we need to get this clear because the thing hasn't even started, and people are already saying all this. We can't go down that rabbit hole, and it's a rabbit hole. Okay. Um, uh, and then there's just from there we get other just statements that are just uh, people's feelings and opinions, but they're stating them as facts, and you really can't do that. Okay, so I just qualify all this as the fear of the unknown. We're used to paper-based exams and all that kind of stuff like that, and it's all great. And new stuff kind of like, oh, we don't want to do that kind of thing, right? So you can't always do that. But anyway, the point is digital tests are pretty difficult compared to paper ones. Who said? Isn't the SHSAT already a challenge exam? Isn't that implied, the statement, if the digital one's hard, that the paper ones were easy? Right? So this is just comments that are all over the place, and they're not really being qualified properly. So we need to be careful with these kind of things like this. The sky is not falling. All right, the sky is not falling. I'll be the first online to say a digital exam is not perfect, but a paper exam was never perfect either. There's actually a multitude of problems with paper exams. We're just used to the problems, right? The same as a car versus a plane versus a train versus walking versus taking a bicycle. Each thing has its own set of pros and cons, and we need to get a grip on stuff like this. And again, it shouldn't go back to just being fearful, but and it's great. You can be comfortable with what you're familiar with, but that's not particularly where we should end up going with everything. Um, and in particular, this is not even really the fear of the unknown. There's been standardized exams for decades now that have been digital, like the GRE, I think, is one of them. Okay. Um, and another example is about 40 years ago, I myself wrote a digital exam system. 4-0, right? I don't understand. So these are things that are a bit around, and that they're just something we need to get into. Here's another one that goes both ways. A paper-based exam is easier to annotate. Well, it's true. If you have a pencil in your hand, you can just use it there. But that doesn't mean there's not other devices and tools. We use styluses, there's touch screens, there's all this other stuff like that. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form saying that the digital SHSAT is going to allow styluses or have touch screens. It might not. That's something we still need to find out about and learn about. And maybe that's something in the future that's going to happen. Maybe it'll go digital first, then it's going to go adaptive second, and then maybe they're going to add extra technology capabilities on top of this. All right. Because on that same note, if we can annotate with a pencil easier, and we have computer ways to annotate easier too, using your finger or whatever the case may be, that could actually be superior to using a pencil, right? So we just have to be sure what we're talking about. On the flip side, when something goes digital, often we can use digital tools. For instance, it's going to have a highlighter. All right. So you'll highlight text that way. Sometimes that's how people annotate. They circle with a yellow highlighter or a pink one or a light green neon one or something like that. So that is kind of going to go where we are as well. This could also deal with the design of the test. One of the things that the digital SAT did was they went from the traditional longer passages, so to speak, to the so-called shorter passages. So instead of having a page passage and maybe 6 to 8 questions on it, the questions, you might have a paragraph and questions about the paragraph. So they're more focused questions. And that's a way to avoid even needing to annotate. And some students don't annotate at all. In fact, the majority of students don't annotate. So the notion that an annotation capability is a requirement is a tough one to fight out and think through and negotiate and all that other kind of stuff like that. So the point is, paper-based exams were never a panacea. They're just what we're used to, and there are problems going digital. But digital also allows other capabilities to happen as well. All right. So, for instance, like a text to speech capability, that could be a nice feature to have, especially for students with accommodations. And that's the other thing about a digital exam is students with accommodations, there could be special tools for doing that as well, right? Not just text to speech, but other things as well. Okay, and then there's a whole bunch of other misinformation or naysaying kind of things, which is the DOE will not have the right equipment for the exam, or the computers for the exam can't be Chromebooks, even new ones, right? Or the application won't load even on a good computer, or whatever the application is that's going to run this exam, it's going to be slow, right? Um, and what if I'm in the middle of the exam and the battery goes low? You know, what if 1,000 things happen? And same as with your paper-based exam. What if you don't come with a pencil? Right? You're still gonna take the exam. All these all these are true. They can happen. You know, what if there's a fire drill in the middle of the exam? What if a lightning storm breaks out in the middle of the exam? What if you drop your water all over your exam? This again, both of them have pros and cons, and making up things. These things should be considerations. I'm hoping that DOE is considering uh, having enough computers, making sure they're powerful enough, making sure that the Wi-Fi system can handle the load of the internet, all these kind of things like that, right? So, but it doesn't go away. It's the same with the paper-based exam. Do you know that paper-based exams can get lost? Do you know once you take the SHSAT, they're actually express mailed to another state? All right. There was a classic case years ago with the gift and talent exam. A whole bunch of exams got missing. Or here's another example. Last summer, not this summer, but the summer before, SHSAT 8 students were given SHSAT 9 exams. So, so this is all possible. Paper is not the answer, complete answer, and paper doesn't magically make the exam work. All right. So these are things we need to work through and consider. So I say, what? Yes, somebody needs to think of all these things, but they don't preclude that the exam's gonna be a mess, right? Um, could could something go bad on test day? Yes, but it always could have, right? So that's what we need to deal with. Um, 10 years ago, Hurricane Sandy happened and they canceled that day, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So these are important points, but they're not insurmountable. Um, and then there's the whole discussion about cheating. A digital exam will make cheating easier. It'll foster cheating. It'll change the way scoring works. All this kind of stuff like that. It's the same. It's the same kind of thing. Where are you coming up with this kind of stuff? Um, Most likely when the DOE, so first of all, you're not going to be bringing your own device. The DOE is going to supply all the devices. And most likely the system, you're going to have to log into the system, and it's probably going to lock the screen, which means no other application can be able to work. And it's one thing if you were taking the exam at home and trying to circumvent the locking system or whatever, but that's going to be super hard in a classroom with the proctor. It's the same like right now. You could, even though you're supposed to turn your phones off, there's students who probably every year probably get caught cheating with a phone or in the bathroom or something like that. So cheating doesn't magically go away, and cheating doesn't magically appear. All right, so there's going to be checks and balances, as there's always been checks and balances. So the fact that it's going to encourage cheating or allow cheating or make cheating easier is kind of, generally speaking, bogus. Um, I am not saying nobody's going to cheat on the digital exam. Okay, most likely there's probably going to, not most likely, probably there's going to be somebody that does. All right, so um, another one that's kind of neither here and here or there is that the digital exam will save you from using bubble sheets. That is not quite true. This is something I might show you guys tomorrow about how a digital exam might actually work. Again, this is a mentality that you're going to take a paper-based exam, photograph the images, and post them on the screen. That's the most primitive way to get a digital exam going. But an actual exam might allow you to drag something, right? Or click on a button and draw a line or something like that. So there's a multitude of things here where the answer may not even be A, B, and C, and D, right? Or it might draw 4 lines and say which is the right graph of the thing, and you click on the lines. So they may not even be A, B, and C, D. One might be red, blue, orange, and green, and you just click on the color. You click on the actual line, right? Or it's going to ask you something inside of a coordinate geometry, and you click there, right? So the notion of a bubble sheet might actually be thrown out the window. All right, it doesn't mean there's not going to be X questions, right? And that's another thing we need to figure out as well, exactly how many questions are there going to be, and is that even a valid question to ask anymore, right? That's the essence of this. Because once it goes digital, there's other capabilities that the paper-based exam kind of really never afforded, or most paper-based exams never did. All right, it's a difference between taking like a paper-based exam and an oral exam, right? The low-T exams, language other than English, and the SLPs and so on, work this way, where there's a multiple choice part, a written part, and then an oral part, right? So in each way, it's still testing you on the language, right? But they're doing it through different ways. So that's the same way here. Um, and an example of that is how the current exam has the revising editing A and the revising editing B. We all like to call that the grammar section, but actually it goes beyond grammar. But there's multiple ways to test those two sections. And revising editing A and revising editing B are two different ways of testing writing ability and stuff like that. So this is the same thing. This is called a paradigm shift, a different way of thinking, a different way of expressing something, a different way of doing something, right? So if you're in the horse blind mode where everything has to look like a paper-based exam, you're not going to perceive the capabilities that are actually going to be allowed on a digital exam, all right? So this is part of what I want to talk about the next time. Maybe tomorrow it's going to be, all right? So the cheating there. Um, there's going to be no way to do math questions on the screen. That's probably true, all right? Because you're going to have to get a scrap paper. You're still going to have scrap paper. You're going to still need a pencil, right? You're going to do a scrap paper. You're going to figure out the answer, do whatever calculations, even graph on your scrap paper, and then do whatever the question asks you to do. It might be graphing something on the screen. It might be clicking A, B, C, D. Uh, it might be computing a number that you type in as a grid in or something like that, right? So, and that's another example where the exam used to just be multiple choice, and then they added grid ins. That's again the paradigm shift. It's a different way of thinking about how to answer the question, right? And it's using different parts of your brain, is testing your thinking skills and all that kind of stuff like that. So the notion that you won't be able to solve math problems is false. You're still going to solve them on a scrap paper, and the ones you do in your head, you're still going to do in your head. All right. So these are bogus. To my knowledge, there's not going to be a calculator, but there will be an equation editor. And some of you are familiar with this on other things. And by the way, there's other exams you've taken, like the New York State exam and stuff like that, which is rolling out to be digital and things like that as well. I wanted to mention that earlier, which I believe supports an equation editor. So you can do something like 1/2, whether it knows there's fractions, or 5 to the power of 3 or something like that. So it knows how to write some primitive math formulas and things like that, right? So this is what an equation editor is, and I'm certain this platform is going to support that. All right. Um, and then my last point is just that there's still going to be a paper and pencil version of the exam for students with some IEPs and some 504s. Okay, it's unclear to me if it's going to look like the current exam, a new flavor of the current exam, or some hybrid between the adaptive, the digital, and the paper-based exam. So there's going to be a lot of confusion or whatever about that too. All right, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about tonight. And Joel says, "What do you think about the digital exam?" Uh, it's here. I think it has pros and cons. I'm trying to reveal them as I talk about this. Um, if if I had druthers, I'm comfortable with the paper-based exam. Um, I would initially prefer it to be a paper-based exam, but let's see what they come up with. It's voted in, so there's no turning back at this point. I don't think there's any way to reverse the vote or make it only paper-based or anything like that. So, I have to say this. Like I said, I wrote a digital exam 40 years ago. I've also used digital exams for other exams, and they aren't too bad. And again, it's a lot just about being comfortable with it and things like that. All right, so we have a few people in the lobby. I'm going to wrap up. I have said what I wanted to say here. So, does anybody have any questions? Please like and subscribe. There's a handful of people in the lobby. Anybody with questions? And like I said, I'm gonna add some more to this tomorrow. It's crazy because the same thing happened with the state exam. I remember taking it digital last year. Yeah, and I get it. I understand the reluctance to it, um, but it's not the end of the world. Um, and by the way, there were false attempts at the state exams. This could go bad. I have in no way, shape, or form uh, making myself a proponent for this. I'm not an opponent either, though. I got something in my mouth. Um, it it could be a catastrophe. There's many scenarios of digital exams that have gone wrong, um, and the question is, what if out of the 30,000 kids, 500 run into a problem? Well, that's that's not good. So um, we would hope that they do the right logging, that the system's written properly to log their answers, so that if something goes down in the middle, like the example I gave before, where the battery of the computer gets shot and the computer shuts down, uh, it's my expectation that there should be no reason to just the kid raises the hand, they say, "Hey, Proctor, my machine shut down," and the Proctor gives them another computer, they log in, and they resume exactly where they left off. And this should all happen in 30 seconds. It really should. All right. And it shouldn't be a great interference. And maybe it gives that student another 30 seconds or something like that. I don't know. All right. So, and again, part of this is the fear of the unknown. We don't know what to expect. We're comfortable with what we know. And yeah, so, and there's good and bad to everything. A digital exam is no panacea, and an adaptive one is confusing. Um, I think there's an important point here too, which I didn't mention yesterday, which is that the students taking this exam, they're not my age, okay? And the students taking this exam, they're not even SAT age, right? So you guys are proficient, you're knowledgeable, and all that stuff like that, but you're not 17 years old, right? So that I think there's a maturity issue involved with some of this too. that the DOE needs to be aware of and really careful with. So yeah, yeah. There's a lot of exams. There's nothing new. Um, all I can do is repeat my talk from before. So, anybody else have any questions? All right, I'm just gonna hang out here another minute or whatever, and if not, we'll end the stream. And like I said, the next time I'm gonna try to give something kind of meaty and just give people a flavor of what is going to be on the exam or not on the exam. And again, please like and subscribe. You guys can always email me at GregsTutoringNYC at gmail.com. Check out the website. And I'm going to keep adapting this digital SHSAT facts URL, keep adding more and more information about it. I have been pursuing the answers to these for a year and a half at this point, and I think we're at the point where I'm getting some information. So I have a question about lottery numbers. If you followed all the requirements for school and have a bad lottery, what are the chances of getting into a school? Well, that's a question that has nothing to do with this. The chances of getting into school, you should go to the schools.nyc.gov/uppercase H, uppercase S, and look at how lottery numbers work. There's a section just about lottery numbers as well. In fact, I have a link to all that in GregsTutoring.com/NYC .com/what is it called? I think it's MS-HS-lottery or something like that. No, dash lottery. And there's a whole bunch of links to how the DOE is going to do that because it depends on if you're a student with disability, whether whether the school has any other requirement in addition to the lottery, stuff like that. So, um, uh, if your free lunch status, things like that. So it's not something I can answer, and it depends on your specifics. So if you go into your profile, it gives you certain information about that, right? It's going to give you a free lunch status. It's going to give you your lottery number. It's going to give you your group number and things like that. And it depends on each school has a different thing. So you're going to have to do some legwork and go through what the specific requirement of a school is. Um, yeah, and I could even if you gave me a school name right now, I would need to go and actually spend 10 minutes or so researching it or whatever. And you're better off going in our SHSAT and asking that kind of a question if you're worried about a specific school. And remember, they have, and again, if you go into schools.nyc.gov/HS, like I said before, there's categories where they break down the tiers, they break down the groups, they break down. Each school has the seat numbers. If you go to My Schools and look at the school, it gives you the counts, all this kind of stuff like that. So, how does cutoffs works? Somebody told me about a book which I didn't fully explain and had trouble researching about it. So, well, again, I'm going to give you a link. If you go to GregsTutoringNYC.com/cutoffs and GregsTutoringNYC.com/SHSAT-scoring, it'll have some information about how the cutoffs come about, okay, in terms of actual doing it. But right, there's a bell curve that statistically distributes all the exams and all the scores. I'm giving you a naive description of it. And looking for sweet spots and things like that is how it's going to work. Um, and you want to be at the end there, really, which is really your 85% above on 114 questions to get somewhere realistic. Um, and they use the bell curve to actually do the scoring. That's how we get the composite scores based on the scaled score, and the scaled score is based on the statistical normalization of all the forms together, and then it bases it on the distribution of the number of test takers and all this kind of stuff like that. It's actually pretty involved. So again, this is really about the digital SHSAT. Now, just to make the connection back to that, I don't know how they're going to change scoring. This is one of the things I'm asking them as well. Because if there's going to be a paper-based exam, will that match the scoring rangeability of all the previous ones in the past few years. So, for instance, Brooklyn Tech is low 500s. Will the new paper-based exam that they're going to use for students with accommodations, will that match that? Will you still get around 500? And furthermore, how will the digital and then finally the adaptive one, how will those map back to this kind of score range as well? So this is going to get very interesting. Not only next year, but when they add the adaptive version too, because they might change the way scoring works completely, right? That might be a way for them to make a break. But if we try to mesh it with previous years, it could be a tough one. All right. So yeah. All right. Any digital SHSAT questions? If not, we'll end this because I wanted to keep this short and sweet. I've done these AMAs where they lasted about 12 hours. I've also done some AMAs where I just let them run and the students would talk and answer, and I would just pop on every half an hour or whatever. So I think eventually that's the way this is going to work. Um, because when I do the next one, which might be tomorrow, where I'm going to kind of give you guys a sense of what might be happening on an actual digital SHSAT, not particularly an adaptive one, just what the digitization might mean and what it might look like, that kind of a thing. All right. Once I do that, I think we need more information from the DOE to answer any other questions. All right. So, all right. All right. So Joel was the question asker today. I don't see anything else going down here. So, um, I'm gonna end this now. All right. So, peace, everybody. Have a nice day. I get being leery about the exam, the digital exam, and the adaptive one. I get it. It may not end up even being perfect, but it's here. And I'm not saying we should be subservient or submissive to the situation, but I do think there's going to be some good parts of this as well. And I think it's important, as in anything, to understand it, at least if, part of what I talked about today was misinformation. At least if we're going to have negative things, if we're going to attack it, if we're going to disagree, the things that we do that with, they have to be valid points. They just can't be, oh, I don't like it, it sucks. Let me say something bad about it because it sounds like it might be nice. It can't sound like it. It has to actually be something that's actually an actual problem. Um, I'm certain there's going to be a whole slew of problems with this, just like there's a whole slew with the paper version. So, all right. All right, guys. I'm gonna end this here. All right. So have a good night and peace. Had to found the stop button. And I'm actually gonna count down because I've never got the synchronization of this properly. So I'm just gonna count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,